Gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Future of Golf podcast, where every week I have the pleasure of speaking to someone new in the golf industry that I've not met previously. This week, I speak to people in either might work in golf operations in some element of the golf industry. I don't think I've ever spoke to someone that has worked in the photography side of the industry, which I'm very excited about this week because we have a master of that art, Mr. Evan Schiller, on the podcast this week. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. How are you today?
I'm good, Graham. Thanks for having me on. This is gonna be great. Looking forward to it.
Certainly a unique guest. As I said, I've never had someone within the photography space of golf, and it's such an interesting part of the game because you can capture, I'd imagine, such beautiful moments and beautiful moments from your perspective as well, or and maybe memories for people, that can be displayed around the clubhouse. So yeah, it's certainly a fascinating thing that I'm looking forward to learn a little bit more about. But Evan, if you want to take it maybe back to like the start of your journey within the game of golf, it's quite evident that you have a passion for it. So where did that passion stem from?
Wow. So my dad played. He wasn't a professional, but he played quite a bit. He's the one who's responsible for getting me into the game. I recall him taking me to the driving range. I mean, I think at the best he was like a 9 or a 10 handicap, but I recall he would always go play on the weekends, and I know he and my mother would go away on golf vacations, sometimes with their friends, and then eventually they would take us, my brother and I. So he's the one who got me started, and I got good enough. I remember going out for the high school golf team. So I made that, and then I played pretty well in high school, and then ended up playing college golf. Um, and I was okay. And then I turned professional and started playing professional golf. I played mini tours. I actually played over in Europe a little bit on the challenge tour. I went over
Wow.
and tried to qualify for the European tour several times. I remember going to the finals at La Manga numerous times in Spain. Um, Went through some of the local qualifyings in the UK. I think Fox Hills, I went there a couple times. Uh, and as I was playing, I started taking a camera along with me.
Wow.
And like all these beautiful places. There was one moment I was out in California, played in the California Open, and in the desert in summer, about this time of year, and it was just hot. I mean, it was hot. I remember it was like 120. And after the tournament was over, somebody suggested that we go play this course down the street in La Quinta, PJ West. It had just opened up. It's a sister, of course, of TPC Sawgrass.
Hmm.
Pete Dye had just done it, just opened up. So the day after the tournament, we went out there really early to play, and before it got really hot. And I remember walking, and there's no houses out there at all. Now there's tons of houses,
Yeah.
and it's really developed. But we're walking down the ninth hole, and there was this incredible scene in front of us. There was a hole that wound its way around the lake. There was a sand trap that ran the length of the fairway, and then you had the railroad ties, and then it had a
Nice.
lake, and in the back was this mountain, and there was this perfect reflection in the water of the mountain. In fact, the hole is nicknamed Reflection, and I decided at that point I need to go home and get a camera and start taking it with me.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
started taking a camera with me and just taking photos just for kicks, and I'd hang them on my wall. I lined my wall with them, and I'd give them to friends, and that's kind of how it got started. Um,
Yeah,
and then
I knew the kind of course you're talking about. So that's like the dramatic mountains in the background
yeah,
as well. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So that you almost like stumbled upon the photography just as a byproduct of wanting to take photos of cool spots whenever you're
yeah,
traveling.
yeah. I mean, when I was younger, my parents got me a little Instamatic, and we'd go on family trips, and I'd take pictures just for fun. And Actually still have some of them. It's pretty funny to go back and look at them. Um, and then, a few years later, I was working at as an assistant professional at Westchester Country Club, and one of the guys I work with said, we should try. Why don't you try and sell some photos in the pro shop during they had the Buick Classic, the PGA Tour's Buick Classic was played there. So
Yep.
um, I laughed at the idea, thinking, who the hell's who's going to buy these things, right? So we put them up in the shop, and they sold. People actually bought them, to my surprise.
Wow.
And that's one thing led to another. I did it a few other courses, and that's how it got started as a business versus just a hobby for kicks, taking pictures of golf courses.
Gotcha. So at Westchester, was it members that were buying these photographs, or was it when
There
the
was
tour
there
was
was
held?
members. There was also people who came to the event,
Yeah,
bought them. Yeah.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
I'd imagine, like, I guess from both your careers there, from the professional side and from your photography side, I guess travel has been a key component from both those parts. So
Oh
you
yeah.
mentioned about traveling across. Maybe we'll start in Europe because you mentioned Europe first of coming across here to the Challenge Tour and playing a few British venues. Um, Maybe if you name, like, would you have any favorites within the UK that you like? Let's say someone has booked a golf trip for you tomorrow and you're going to this location. Like, what would be the most exciting spot for you to visit, maybe in the UK and Ireland?
Well, my favorite was Royal County Down. The f- the the first course I played in Ireland or UK or Ireland was, well, probably, yeah, the qualifying was Fox Hills. That was probably the first course I played. Or actually, my friend was a member. My friend who actually I have a friend who lives over there in Bexley,
Yep,
Chislehurst. I think I played a few holes at Chislehurst, um, and then Fox Hills. But the first links course I played was Royal County Down.
that's
Sorry,
quite
no,
a
sorry,
course to play.
excuse me. No, so
That's
my
quite a
first
course
course
to
was
play for the
Ballybunion.
first.
First course was Ballybunion. Sorry, first course was Ballybunion, and then I went and played Royal County Down and fell in love with it, and it's been one of my favorite, if not my favorite course ever since.
Yeah, I can imagine why you like it. Like, you've got the dramatic. It is just perfect for photography. You've got the more mountains in the background, and you've got that beach going around as well.
Oh yeah, it's just
Yeah, one of my favorite courses to play, and actually there's another 18-hole course attached to it that not many people know about it, called the Ainsley Links,
yep,
and that is such a fun course to play.
yeah,
Like, you could actually just take out a set of irons and just enjoy. Like, you don't need to
yeah,
bring driver; you can just enjoy yourself. So I
yeah,
always recommend people going to County Down to reserve an afternoon if you've got a morning round on the championship course. Take a bit of time and go out in that side course because the undulations are
yeah.
just unbelievable. So much fun.
It's like it's the equivalent of, well, I remember crawling up on the dunes behind the third green on the championship course and sitting up there waiting, and it's just a great spot. You could see the beach and you look down on the course. It's the highest spot. Those are some of the highest dunes in, um, I think, in Europe. um, and I turned around, and the course, you can see the course behind you, um, the Ainsley Links, and it's like, wow, look at that, that's kind of cool. I never got out there to play it. I took a few photos of it.
Yeah. I
Afterwards.
remember I remember I think I was 13 or 14 and I was playing that course for the first time. It was me and my dad actually were going around, and we hadn't quite worked out the layout of the course and where the Ainsley Links course went and where the championship course was. It's all very well signposted now, but maybe for that day we were just unaware. So I remember we walked up and I was like 13. I was still playing off like 20, 25 and taking these practice swings. I was like, this looks like an awfully long hole for me. And I think one of the caddies, I think it was the sixth or seventh fairway, shouted up, "You're on the wrong course!" And I turned around, and
Yeah, there's a spot there where you can get a little mixed up.
yeah, I looked around, and I think there was a group of 4 or 5 Americans with caddies, and just kind of looking at me peculiarly. So we stumbled across back to the Ainsley course. Well, it was a good memory. And then in terms of Europe, I'm sure you've been to a lot of those top venues as well. Is there anywhere there that stands out?
I've really haven't been other than Spain. Um, I haven't been to a ton of courses in Europe. Actually, I was just in well, just in May. I was in Portugal. I did a shoot there at a new course. It's a Discovery Land property, Costa Terra, just south of Lisbon.
Hmm.
Um,
Not
it's
to
about
make you
an hour and a half
jealous.
south of Lisbon. So I was there in May to shoot that course.
Funny enough, I'm actually in Lisbon right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I've been living here for the last few weeks. I've been working remotely.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
I haven't got the golf clubs out yet, but I'm going down to the Algarve on Friday to play a few
Okay.
courses.
Yeah.
So if you have any recommendations around there, that would be much appreciated. But
Yeah. I,
I so around Lisbon, there's a lot of good tracks as well.
around where?
Lisbon,
Oh yeah. I mean that when I was there. I mean I landed and I took the red eye. Landed in the morning. Somebody from the golf course picked me up. They took me down there. I I stayed at a little B&B just down the street. I was there for 5 or 6 days, and then I went back to the airport and left. That was the extent of my trip. I mean, I remember it just being beautiful, and Costa Terra was amazing. But I didn't see too much other than the countryside driving back and forth to the airport. But I know there's some really nice golf down there.
awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I suppose I play golf in Ireland and the UK and then America, and I haven't really seen too much of Europe. I played a little bit of golf in Spain,
Right.
um, just outside of Barcelona. And yeah, the experience is lovely here, driving around in the golf cart with your beer in 30-degree
Yeah.
weather. It's a bit different to the Irish golf experience when you're
Oh yeah.
screaming at someone that's about 6 feet away from you to decipher if you had a 7 or an 8 in the previous hole. um,
Um, I did play um, El Soler in Spain, in Valencia, um, which is really, really nice.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of cool courses there.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm interested. There was obviously a point, and it might have been around this point when you were working in Westchester as the pro, where you transitioned to obviously you were playing and you were teaching, and then the transition happened where you were more towards the photography side. Do you want
Yeah.
to talk me through like that transition period and kind of how that all transpired?
Yeah. It was kind of slow because even, after I left um, Westchester, I was still teaching. In fact, I was working with an organization called Extraordinary Golf that was founded by Fred Shoemaker. It's a golf school. So I was one of the coaches there working with them. And so I was doing some individual coaching and we were working on golf schools, but also doing the photography. And it was a gradual thing that shifted over time to the point where it became more and more photography and then, full time, um, you know, full time photography
Yeah.
after a while. I don't
And,
even remember how long that all took. It was just it just kind of happened, gradual transition.
hmm.
Um,
So yeah,
and
you were side
it wasn't
hustling.
really, yeah, it wasn't even really planned, to be honest with you. It just kind of happened on its own volition.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine there was a point there where you're teaching in the side, and then you also have to travel for these shoots. Like, how
Yeah.
were you managing your time during that period? How were you fitting people in for lessons?
I say, hey, I got to go away next week. Sorry. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was kind of, 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on. And in the winter, it was different because living in the Northeast, you didn't do a lot of teaching in the winter time. So um,
hmm. And is
it
that
was,
where you're originally from, Evan? Are you from the East
yeah,
Coast?
I'm from New York. I grew up in Westchester County.
Excellent.
It's not too far outside of the city, New York City. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, I gotta
yeah. I
be
was
careful
over.
because around Westchester, around where I live, you say, yeah, I live about an hour out of the side of the city, and people don't live around there. They go, what city? So I got to be
Yeah,
careful to say New York City.
New York's a big place.
Yeah.
I was over in your side of the world last January. I got across
Mm.
for a week into New York. Typical tourist. I stayed in central Manhattan, but I
Right.
got out to New Jersey for 4 or 5
Yeah.
days. Got to play some nice country clubs. I played Siwanoy Country Club, if you've heard of that.
Siwanoy.
Siwanoy, yeah, approved.
That's in actually is in Westchester.
Oh wow! So yeah, I got the train out from Penn Station, and I arrived at a small. It was like a village town. It was called Tuckahoe, I believe.
Tuckahoe.
Um, and I don't know how this happened. I think it was through a mutual connection. I met the president of a country club called Navasink, who was an
Yep.
Irish guy. So he picked me up from the train station and then took me to the club. And the American and the Irish customer service are great in different ways. But I that was the first experience I think I had of the American customer service, especially in country clubs. So we arrive at the country club, someone's there to greet you. They're like, "Welcome, Mr. Curry. Thank you so much for coming." I'm like, I don't deserve
In
this.
in January. In
Yeah,
January, really, because most of the clubs around here are I mean, they're closed in January.
yeah. I think now that you mentioned, I think it might have been March. I think it was coming into spring.
Okay,
Um,
that
but
might, yeah, be different. They're just starting to reopen then.
must have been, yeah. But it seemed like kind of had a look in the map and zoomed out, and there seemed to be a concentration of a huge amount of clubs and a lot of high quality clubs around that region as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you go up the road. There's Waikegeel, there's Quaker Ridge, there's Winged Foot. Winged Foot is right across the street from Quaker Ridge. Westchester Country Club is just up the road from there. Yeah, there's a lot. That's in Westchester, and there's probably more top 100 golf courses in the metropolitan area than there is in any area in the world.
Mm,
I would venture to guess. I mean,
yeah, it's
Long Island alone, well, New York State, I think, has 17 courses in the top 100, and most of those are in the metropolitan area.
mm, yeah, it certainly seemed that way when I looked at the map. I'm interested. So after that transition, whenever it kind of naturally
Yeah.
went that you were full time doing the photography, who were the first clubs that you started work with? Like, was it ones in the local area, or were in like inbound leads coming from all over at the start?
A lot of them were in the local area. Um, it's interesting because when I started doing this, there wasn't the the influence of social media. Um,
Right.
it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of the communication came through email or regular mail. You had to communicate or uh, with people, and so a lot of it was outbound. Trying to solicit yourself or introduce yourself in any ways you could. I knew a lot of local courses, so I did some stuff for them. And then eventually the tide turned. It went from me trying to find work to the work finding me. So with that, that took a while. That took a while to develop. Uh,
Huh.
you know, I get a lot of calls. Not calls, but requests. Whether it's those usually through social media. Guys who want to get into golf course photography and how do I do it? Right? Try this, and so yeah, it took a while. It wasn't easy. It took a while.
Hmm.
Um, it's different now. It's probably a lot easier to get your name out there now than it was when I was doing it,
Yeah.
starting
Well,
off.
I think if anyone wants to get into golf photography, they only really have to look at the example of your landing page there, or even your
Yeah,
LinkedIn presence.
right,
Um, like I think photography is actually quite a nice one to market because the proof is in your work, and you can just put that up on your website to say, hey, this is what I can offer. You don't like I'm in the software business, so if someone wants to see what I do, there has to be a demo arranged and you have to show them what to do, versus the proof is in your work.
right.
And I think that's kind of how we met. Like, I saw your photography on LinkedIn, I thought it was phenomenal, and it's different. Like, say for example, I take a photo on a golf course, it might look nice from my perspective, but it's just a whole different caliber, what you deliver to clubs. I'm really interested in the process, like what you would actually do in a day whenever a golf club hires you. So
Right.
let's say Pebble Beach says, I want like a photo shoot of our seventh green or our 18th green. What does a day look like for you whenever you're going to one of these clubs?
Yeah. Um, I'll do it from the standpoint of a golf course that I have not been to.
Sure. Yep. I'm up
Just
for that.
because the process is a little different. Um, for instance, I'll give you a for instance. So um, they just finished the tour championship at East Lake.
Right. Yep.
So they contacted me a few weeks now. They actually just yesterday are starting Andrew Green's starting a major renovation of the golf course. I mean, it started yesterday. They're going to renovate the whole golf
Wow.
course.
That's a
Yeah,
quick turnaround post tournament. My God.
yeah. Well, they got to get it done for next year.
Like, yeah.
So East Lake. It usually starts with a call. East Lake contacted me because I think it was Andrew Green and the GM there suggested they contact me. So just over time, I've developed contacts. And people know me. Like I know a number of the architects, and I know a number of the GMs. And so the GM and Andrew Green suggested contact Evan. So the marketing, I think it was the membership director, the marketing director, contacted me and said, "We're interested in having you come out and shoot the course." She told me what was going on as far as, well, having Andrew Green come do the renovation, blah, blah, blah. It should be finished I think they said it should be finished by the end of this year. Um, and then, there's going to be in the growing phase, but we want to have you come in and shoot it before they start setting up again for the tour championship next year.
Yeah.
Right. So so anyway, we had a call and talked about it and what they wanted and what I could do and when they start setting up for the tournament because it's months ahead. They start bringing in equipment, and so we had to figure out, okay, well, when can we do this when they're not putting up stuff, or work around it, or can they delay setting it? So we had to discuss logistics. So we settled on next June. So come next June, what I'll do is when I go to a course, I generally like to get there. Let's say the shoot is for the week of, it starts on a Monday and it goes to Thursday, whatever. It's a 3-day shoot or
Mhm.
4 day, 3 day. So what I would do is travel to the golf course on Monday, get there early enough so I could have a look around. And in the interim, I have spoken to the superintendent as well because I want to find out, how he or she works, what their
Mhm.
schedule is, and I want to introduce myself and they'll let them know here's how I work, and they'll ask me, okay, what do you need? So we need to coordinate our schedules because they're out there in the morning, um, you know, prepping the course and doing their work. It just so happens that when I'm going to go shoot East Lake, it won't be open yet. So
Yes.
it's still, so that's a bonus because they don't have to worry about play,
Yeah.
and they
Makes
don't
your
have to
life a
worry
little
about,
easier.
and also, when I'm working with a superintendent, they have to prep the course for the day's play, so they have to coordinate with play as well as me. So that's a big part of it is coordinating with the superintendent and working out. Okay, well, what are we going to do in the morning? Because your guys are out there. I can't have them, like if I want to shoot, let's say the seventh hole, I can't have your guys driving all over the place and there's tracks and do and they've mowed the green but not the fairway and and it just looks, you know so there's a back and forth of trying to figure out, what to do with that. Sometimes they'll go out and mow ahead of me, but they got to do it really early. Sometimes they don't touch it. We just leave it. Just
Yeah.
kind of, it depends. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of back and forth with the superintendent
Yeah. I didn't
prior to.
realize that it was a 4-day process as well. So again,
Well,
this is just my ignorance to photography and like the intricacies of it and how long it takes. But it was my assumption that you would kind of arrive, you would do a morning and an evening, and you'd be packed up. Whereas would it be a 3-4 day job for you in every course that you would do?
No, it just depends. I generally don't like to do a local course that, I have to drive is less than an hour away. I'll do a 1-day shoot.
Yeah.
But if I have to get on a plane and go somewhere, I won't do a 1-day shoot. It's just, it's too much rolling the dice. because you could get a so-so afternoon that, or and a so-so morning where you may get some shots, then that's your day.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do two, you got a second day, and then there's also, well, I want to go back and reshoot this hole because I want to get it a little earlier because I got there a little late this morning, or I got there, in the afternoon. I got there too late. So you can go back and revisit some stuff that you didn't like exactly how it was the day before. The weather may be different, clouds may be different. So yeah, but no, they could be anywhere between a two and longer even. I've had five. I mean, if somebody wants, let's say they want to have, there's two courses.
Yeah.
If they want all 18 holes on both courses, that could take 5, 6 days, depending on weather and amount of play. Um, so yeah, it just kind of depends.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah.
And
So after, in other words, after, so finish this up.
yeah.
So after I do that, then I scout and I kind of get a sense of what holes I want to shoot and when, and then I tell the superintendent what I want to do. So they go out. I mean, usually, it's early morning, the first couple hours of the day, and then the last couple hours of the day are the prime time.
Hmm.
And so I'll just do that for how many days I'm there. Like after I shoot in the afternoon, I'll go back. I got to charge batteries. I got to download photos. I review everything to make sure everything's okay. See if I want to revisit anything the next day, and then go out and do the same thing the next day
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
next day. Yeah.
It's interesting because obviously your job is very weather dependent as well.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine you've had some frustrating days where maybe you arrive in Ireland and it's pissing down rain or 50-mile-an-hour winds and the
Oh yeah.
shot's not there. Although I'd imagine in some cases would you go out when the weather is somewhat blustery and try and get that typical Irish shot of the dunes and the wind? Like,
Yeah.
what's the worst weather you've been out in, I suppose?
Well, it depends. Some, like, I remember my last trip to Ireland, which was a while ago, was at Waterville, and I think it was the first 5 days it just pissed down rain. I mean, I think the sun came out for half an hour
Yeah.
one afternoon. Yeah, it was just, I mean, yeah, it just 5 straight days. There's a couple
Welcome to
breaks here.
Ireland.
Yeah, I
Welcome
know
to
exactly. So it can happen. Yeah,
Ireland.
it can happen. So you just, generally when I go over there, I leave a few extra days just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever I mean, I'm sure you've taken thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of shots of golf courses now. For, I guess, someone who is not lost in the art of golf photography, if you could kind of pinpoint, I guess, from first principles, what you're looking for in maybe not the perfect shot, but something that really catches your eye. Like, what are the things that you're looking for in a photograph that makes it really stand out?
Um, well, when I'm scouting, for the other thing is when I'm driving around scouting the course, I have this app on my phone called Sunseeker.
Okay.
So it tells me where the sun is going to be at each time of the day.
Yes.
So I make little notes to myself. Okay, well, I want to shoot this hole first thing in the morning, right as the sun comes up. And then, well, the sun's going to take a little bit longer to hit this hole because there's a few more trees and it sits down in a little valley. I just shot a course in New Jersey a few weeks ago, and there was several holes side by side, but the sun hit each one of them differently. Like, the second hole it hit first thing as soon as the sun came over the mountain, the hill. It was beautiful. But,
Mm,
that was the second hole. But the first hole, which was right to the side of it, sat down in a little gully a little bit. So it took a while for the sun to get up high enough to hit that. So I shot number two, and then I had to go shoot three. So I'm looking for the light plays hugely in all of this. Like, okay, the angle of the sun, what time of day, how's it going to illuminate the hole because you get your best shadows, and the window to shoot some of these holes is very small to get your best light. Um, so I'm just, I'm looking for, interesting angles, or, and if they want all 18 holes shot, then, actually, obviously, I'm looking at all, I'm looking at every hole, but
yeah.
I'm also looking at which holes, okay, like, which ones to me are the priority. Like these it's going to be make a better photograph than some of these other ones. And
Mm,
when do I want to shoot them? What time of day and from what angle? Do I want to shoot it from the tee, from the fairway, from behind, or all three? It might be beneficial to do all three.
mm.
So you're just looking around at, for angles and perspectives and when you're using a drone, also you're just driving along the ground, you can't always tell what it's going to look like from a drone. So
Yep.
sometimes I'll just pop the drone up to see, even if it's not what I'm going to shoot, just to see what it looks like.
Yep. And whenever you're working with a club, will they give you a brief of what they want? Will they say we want all 18 holes, or will they say we want a panoramic shot? Or I guess my question is, what degree of creative freedom do you have in terms of like what you actually produce for them?
Well, they will usually, what I do is I send them a rate sheet and it has various options on it. Like whether you want me to come for 2 days, you want me to come and shoot all 18 holes, you want me to do some video. So they'll pick one of the options. Um, whereas if it's a 2 day shoot, they may say, okay, we want shots of these, definitely want shots of these holes and anything else you see, but definitely get shots of these holes. And sometimes they'll say, we want shots of these holes from a specific angle. But for the most part, I have creative license for the most
Gotcha.
part. Yeah, most of them just let me go.
Yep. And I think we were talking beforehand, Evan, just about your business model and maybe some people
Yeah,
not being actually totally aware of how you do it. So as you explained to me, like this is not you like voluntarily going out to clubs. Like clubs have become aware of your expertise in this, and they're actually hiring you for this. So that's one part of it. Do you have any like prints that you distribute as well, as far as like
yeah,
people just buying it for one off
yeah.
if they want
I
to hang in
have
their
a
house? Or,
yeah, yeah. No, that's a huge part of it. My business is I have an online store where I sell prints. Um, I don't know how many courses I got up there now. It's probably close to 90 courses up there that I sell prints of. Yeah. So yeah, that's also another part of the business, which is actually a big part of it now.
yeah. And that's it. I mean, I think from the outside, someone might look at it and say, well, he's just going around golf courses and just taking photographs. But from talking to you, like the process of going back and having to review the photos, and then, as you say, if you're running a print business as well, like the distribution of that, um, it, I'm sure it takes a lot of time, which makes me wonder how you balance that with the professional job. I'd say
Yeah,
that would have been a long few years for you.
I'm still trying to figure out how to balance it all because it can get um, a little overwhelming at times dealing with all
Yeah.
of it, especially if I'm traveling. Because I'm traveling. Well, there's the traveling part, right? But then there's also the shooting part, and the reviewing, editing, downloading, and then charging all that stuff for the shoot. But then I got to deal with the print business as well
Yeah.
while I'm traveling. So yeah, it's still learn. I'm
Absolutely.
still trying to figure out how to handle it all.
And are you a one man band at the minute, Evan? Or is there anyone else that helps you out?
Yeah, there's a couple people who help. I have somebody who um, deals with my website. I have another couple guys who handle all my marketing, like online on Facebook and Instagram, the marketing for that. Um, my wife is my editor writer.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a few people. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a bit of a team behind you as well, and
Yeah.
that's cool to have your wife supporting you in that as well. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And in terms of this year, then Evan, I suppose coming into the second half, I know you mentioned about Eastlake booking you for next season. Have you any exciting travel plans coming up for the next few months?
Yeah. Um, let's see. When I go back, I have a couple shoots in New Jersey. One is at a place called Hamilton Farm,
Okay.
which there are actually two shoots that I have to go back and finish up from earlier in the year. The weather has been a little challenging in the Northeast this year between all the rain, but also the smoke we've been getting from the fires in Canada,
Right.
which has
Yeah.
not helped. Then actually going out to Kohler,
Excellent.
in
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Yeah, I'll be there for 6 days, kind of towards the end of September. And then from there, I go to Dallas to PGA Frisco, the new PGA two new courses out there. The PGA headquarters is out there. They just opened a new Omni Hotel. Yeah, and then I'm back another shoot in New Jersey, and then then another local one, and then the last 2 weeks of October and the first week of November, I'm in Florida to shoot. I think it's 6 courses.
Wow. So
Yeah,
pretty packed schedule.
what's that?
As pretty, I was saying, a pretty packed schedule. I'd
Yeah,
imagine Whistling Straits would be quite a fun one to shoot.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've never been there, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to some of these courses in Florida as well. There's one new one, actually two new ones, I think. Two Panther National is in Jupiter that Jack Nicklaus did with Justin Thomas, which isn't open yet. So
Wow.
looking forward to seeing that one. Yeah,
Yeah, that'll be a treat. You'll get early access to
yeah,
the property and see around it. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Evan, I'm sure we could sit and talk for hours because I think this is obviously something that I was fascinated by just by coming across your work
Yeah.
online. I really enjoyed hearing like the process of how you've gained that expertise and learning it, and it was interesting that it actually stemmed from you being a professional player and seeing different vantage points around the course, which allowed you to then do it for a career. So privileged to be able to speak to you from my
Oh,
perspective. um, and if there's any listeners that maybe want to have a look at your photography, is there anywhere that they should go online to go check it out?
yeah. It's well, they can follow me on social media and Instagram. If you type in Evan Schiller Photography, that'll come up.
Yep.
And then my website is evanschillerphotography.com. Just my name, evanschillerphotography.com. That's my website. So there's all kinds of stuff there.
Fantastic. Well, listen again, absolute pleasure, Evan, having you on. As I say, we could have talked for hours.
Yeah. Thank
But
you.
yeah,
This is great.
that's fun. Let me know if you have any travel plans for Ireland coming up as well. And
Uh,
it'd
I
be great to.
believe next year. I believe next
Oh,
year.
nice.
Yeah,
Well, oh,
I
sorry.
can't say, but there's a couple courses that are going to book me for next July.
Very good. You're coming at the right time of the season for sure.
You know what? I've never been to Ireland in July. I think I've always gone in September. Always gone in September. Never gone another time of the year.
Yeah, September is actually usually a good month. There's an old Irish riddle. Whenever the kids go back to school, the weather gets good. So that's usually when the weather does turn good. But yeah, July should be pretty good. Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Evan, that was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've started a tradition actually in the podcast where the guest I have on gives a recommendation for a new guest that I should have for my next episode. So if you were to recommend anyone else for me to get on, who would
Wow.
be your pick?
Recommend a guest for somebody to get on.
Could be anyone.
Well, trying to think of somebody's. Well, first thing that comes to mind if yeah is Andrew Green, the golf course architect.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah, that would
great.
be really interesting. We're going very niche into the photography architect world.
Yeah, really
But
good guy. Really, yeah, really good guy.
yeah, awesome.
Trying to think if
Yeah,
there's anybody else.
no, one is all I need, Evan. So that is perfect.